So I want to talk about what I think are the Packers' top 5 draft needs as we move into NFL draft season, with the draft being now a few months away. I want to discuss who I think, what positions are the most important positions of need for the Packers as they come into this draft. This could change, of course, based on who the Packers decide to sign, which free agents return, which free agents don't return. But starting off, I want to start off with number 5, and that is wide receiver. So Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, both free agents. They may or may not return. I think it could be smart to at least bring one of those guys back. And I think if Aaron Rodgers returns, it's even more likely that probably both of them are back. But I think that regardless of if Aaron Rodgers is here or not, to be able to have a veteran presence who has been here in Green Bay for years and years makes lots of sense when you consider Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Samori Toure, all guys who are still young players who I think could use that veteran presence in that room. And I think that the wide receiver room is already pretty stacked, pretty loaded right now when you look at Watson and Doubs going into their next season. But I think when you look around the NFL, you can never have too many weapons. And if Jordan Love were to play this next year, even Aaron Rodgers as well, why not add another receiver? Maybe sometime later in the draft. We don't need to go up early, I don't think, even though it could be beneficial. But I think you could wait later, maybe take a receiver in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, somewhere around there, just to add some more depth to this unit. Now moving on to number 4, I think tackle is a need. Right now, this exact moment going into next year, I don't think we necessarily need to have a tackle for next year, but looking ahead 2-3 seasons, when we look at David Bakhtiari, he currently has 2 more years left on his contract. It looks like he should be back again next year. He started to play a lot more as the season went on. His knees seemed to heal up a lot more than it had been. And so he is 31 years old right now, and he should be at left tackle next season, but who knows how long he will hold up? Who knows if he'll ever have any more issues with that knee in the next couple seasons? And I think just to prepare for the future when one day Bakhtiari is gone, to be able to have a tackle in there who could fill in could be smart. Now we do have Zach Tom, who played really well along the entire offensive line. He played some snaps at left tackle, some snaps at right tackle, and I think he could fill in at either of those places. So he's a good depth piece there, maybe even starter as we move forward. And then also Josh Nijman is a free agent. He played lots of snaps, 200 at left tackle, 555 at right tackle. And so depending on if the Packers bring him back or not, it could mean we may need even to, draft a tackle a little bit higher just to have someone else on this offensive line who could sub in there. If it's only Zach Tom and Bakhtiari, if either of those guys goes down, could be smart to have another tackle on this roster who has the ability to play, I think, at an elite level. But we'll see if the Packers bring Yosh back or not. It could be smart, I think, just for a somewhat of a cheaper contract for Yosh because he has played really well. And you can never have too many offensive linemen when it comes to injuries and things like that. Now, number 3, I'm going to say safety. So when we take a look at safety right now, Adrian Amos is a free agent. We'll see if the Packers decide to bring him back or not. But when we look at the Packers' 2 starting safeties this year, based on their PFF grades, Darnell Savage ranked 88th out of 89 safeties. Adrian Amos ranked 79th out of 89 safeties. And then Rudy Ford, who was brought in this past offseason, was actually the highest graded safety for the Packers, and he ranked 11th out of 89. So as he got more playing time, he started to look really, really good. And that's actually, Rudy Ford had the 6th highest coverage grade among safeties in the NFL. And so I think when you look at the Packers' safety situation, the Packers may not bring Amos back. Who knows? He is getting a little bit older, maybe around, 29 or 30 years old now, I believe. So who knows if he'll be back or not. If he's not back, definitely important, I think, to early in the draft, somewhere early, draft a safety to be able to have someone who can come in there the next couple of years, become a very solid safety overall. So that's the safety need. Then we have number 2, I'm going to say edge rusher. It hurts a ton to not have Rashawn Gary, as we saw. When the Packers had him, they had the 2nd highest pressure rate in the NFL. When he went down, they moved to having the 28th ranked pressure rate. So that clearly hurt to lose him. He could miss a little bit to start the season. And without him, we still have Preston Smith, JJ Enagbare, who I think has taken some steps forward, Jonathan Garvin. But overall, I think we need to add another pass rusher to hopefully help the blow a little bit with Rashawn Gary being gone. But then as we move forward in the future, to have another guy who can come up and start to, play at an elite level. Because if we look at the pass rushers and their pass rushing grade, Rashawn Gary, 83, which is really good. Besides that, though, Preston Smith, 63.4, not great, 63.4. And then JJ Enagbare, 61.3. Jonathan Garvin, 57.5. And I think that we saw, Preston Smith had some up and down games. He had some really good stretches throughout the season. I think he's still a very solid edge rusher, but I think it could be smart. Add one more edge rusher, especially with Gary having this ACL tear. Sometime early in the draft, find an edge rusher. And then here's what I think the number 1 need is, and that is tight end. It does depend on whether or not the Packers bring back Marcedes Lewis and Robert Tonyan. I think that lots of this depends on Aaron Rodgers and what happens there, because it sounds to me like he wants both of those guys back. Marcedes Lewis, great run blocker. Robert Tonyan, a little more of a receiving threat than a Marcedes Lewis. Josiah DeGuara as well. But I think when you look at the Packers and their tight end situation, I talked about it a couple days ago when I was suggesting maybe drafting tight end Michael Mayer in the first round of the draft. We just haven't had that like elite tight end player, sort of like a Travis Kelce, George Kittle at sort of that level. And I think to come in here early in the draft, whether that's first or second round, to add a guy who has that upside could make lots of sense. Because if we look at the Packers tight ends and their receiving grades from PFF this season, Robert Tonyan 60th, Josiah DeGuara 50th, and then Marcedes Lewis 95th. And one thing I found interesting as I was doing this tight end research, 3 of the 4 teams in the AFC and NFC championships have a tight end graded in the top 5 when it comes to receiving grade. We have Travis Kelce, the number 1 graded receiving threat at tight end, George Kittle number 2 by PFF, and then Dallas Goedert on the Eagles is number 4. So I think when you look at this Packers offense, who already added some weapons last year, to be able to add an elite tight end, a tight end who has that ability to really produce in the passing game, could allow this Packers offense to open up even more, whether that's with Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers. But those are the biggest needs I see for the Packers. Feel free to comment yours down below, but that's all I have for this video, and I'll see you guys next time.